Things are over for Amber Heard. Amber Heard and her team filed a motion claiming one of the jurors who sat in the Depp Heard trial was an imposter and not the one selected by the jury. Her motion states to dismiss the trial and start a new one. The judge appears furious over her and disallows her and her team to interview the imposter. Is this game over for Heard? Will she get another chance? Keep watching to know more. According to her motion, the goal is to have a mistrial declared and to start over with a new trial and a new jury. She faces a significant challenge, but it is not insurmountable. Furthermore, the verdict is unlikely to be overturned because she must prove a couple of things. One, that this juror was somehow biased against her, and two, that it influenced the outcome in such a way that if this hadn't happened, the verdict might not have been in that. It is extremely difficult to achieve both of those goals when facing her. It will come down to whether this judge is willing to interview the juror to determine whether the juror came to the jury panel knowing he wasn't who he said he was and with some kind of malice or ulterior motive, some kind of bias against her. But judges don't like to disturb jury verdicts. So simply because something was not proper, optimal, or even slightly worse, possibly even misconduct, it is not usually enough to overturn the entire verdict. So she has a very high hill to climb, and her brief was quite revealing. Johnny Depp's legal response was far more substantive, so she's in the best possible position to get a new trial in that regard as well. Here, it appears that there would be a lot of checks and balances to prevent something like this from happening, and Depp's lawyers make that argument. They say, listen, you got the jury list and it had birthdays on it, and you admit in your paper that the person who showed up was in his 50s, not in his 70s. On the other hand, the person who was called was in his 70s. According to the rules, when you show up for jury duty in Virginia, you can show a social security card instead of an ID with an actual birthday. So her argument works. We should have checked, but the system failed. But again, the system failing as a technicality isn't going to get her the relief she's seeking. And Depp also makes the point that it was on her lawyers to double check it, not just the clerk, counsel, and the judge. The question will be whether the judge decides to give her at least a hearing on this, to see if there was something nefarious about the fact that this juror apparently showed up for a long trial under the guise of another family member with the same name, living in the same house, who was 20 years older. This is a valid legal maneuver. According to the rules, her lawyers may have had some responsibility. It appears their responsibility is to ensure that the juror list matches the people in front of them. On the other hand, many people are involved in this high-profile trial. There was a greater possibility that the jurors came to this trial with a bias, and the verdict arguably suggests that the facts did not match up with the outcome. All she had to do was show up. There was only one instance of abuse, and it was not defamatory. This was not about locking Johnny Depp up or even charging him with a crime or civil liability. He was the one who sued her, and all she had to show was one instance of domestic violence, which arguably she did, and the jury still found for him. So the circumstances are favorable to her, but the judge will not allow her to disturb the verdict. Fans thought their own way and expressed their views, with one fan saying, if their theory about Juror 15 having the same first and last name as his father was true, one would think the son would be more hyper alert and extra aware to pay attention to the birth date on the mail documents he receives if he and his father get together. The user further says it happens just as easily and frequently as Depp. Fans are attempting to make it appear as if it is happening, so they anticipate Heard's team catching the DOB while insisting that the son either missed the DOB or had a different jury summons paper that did not show the DOB. Another user says all of the jurors were vetted and cleared by both sides. There were also alternate jurors available. It is stated in the law that this is not grounds for a mistrial. AH is simply grasping at straws rather than paying up. One more added that, speaking of faking it, Heard's lawyer pretended that they didn't know all along that juror number 15 wasn't who was listed on his paperwork, and they proceeded with the trial anyway. What do you think of Heard's motion to dismiss the trial? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to subscribe for more.